So, good evening, dear participants. Welcome to the final session of this Ensemble Genome Browser workshop. We have with us today Elena. She will deliver final session for you. So, over to you, Elena.
Thank you very much. Let me just share my screen with you. Okay, welcome back everyone, and welcome back to the final day of the Browsing Genes and Genomes with Ensembl workshop. So today we have got at BioMart, but I just wanted to give a quick overview of things that you have covered in the past weeks. So we started with giving you an introduction to Ensembl, then we had genes and transcripts, and then I covered variation and VEP. And then this week, Emily spoke to you about comparative genomics. And today I'm going to speak about BioMart. As per the previous modules, the structure is going to be the same. So I am going to present on BioMart and how we produce some of the data and how the data is processed. And then we're going to I'm going to demo the BioMart tool so that I could give you a feel of how you can use the BioMart tool and how you can use it for your own data. And then we're going to have some exercises for you to try. And please remember, the exercises are not a test. Pick and choose the ones that are relevant to you, and you don't need to do all of them. Okay. So BioMart is a highly customizable online data exportation tool from Ensembl. It allows you to export large amounts of Ensembl data tables with no programming skills required. All you have to do is build queries with a few mouse clicks, and you can generate custom data tables and sequence files. So BioMart is great for things that would be time-consuming, difficult, and tedious. By using the website alone, if you wanted to download the sequence for hundreds of genes or a genomic location for 100 of variants, doing so one by one is going to take you a lot of time, and it would require hopping from one Ensembl tab to another. In BioMart, you'll be able to do it more efficiently and faster in just one place. So it's a bit like, so I've used the supermarket analogy here. So it's a bit like chemists and convenience stores all coming together in one supermarket to meet all of your needs. It's also great for things like ID conversions. So as a researcher, you often end up working with different databases, and all of them have their own identification system. So BioMart can convert these for you in one place. BioMart can export large amounts of data, but it has limited capacity. So it is not a whole genome data export. If you want a whole genome file, then you would need to go to our FTP site, which is a public directory. If you ask BioMart to output all possible genes, it's going to crash. So we would suggest around 500 items at one job. You can find BioMart on the blue navigation bar at the top of the Ensembl homepage. It is blue for Ensembl vertebrates, and then it's a different color for Ensembl genomes, depending on the taxa. BioMart is also available for all taxa division, apart from bacteria, as there's just too many of them. To use BioMart, you have to follow 4 super simple steps. So first, you need to choose your database and species of interest. You then have to narrow down this big database of all possible genes to a smaller data set of interest, and you can do so by applying filters. After you've applied your filters, you then get to choose the attributes, and these are the things that you want to print. And finally, you can view your results, and you also get the option to export them. So let's just look at the first step in detail. The first step is that you have to define the data set. So you can choose different databases depending on what you're querying for. You can look for databases for Ensembl genes, Ensembl variation, regulation, or mouse strains. You're likely not to use the mouse strains option unless you're looking for specific differences between the different mouse strains. Then you need to define your species of interest. Then step 2 is where you apply your filters. So these are things that you want to search with. Most of the time, we're interested in subset of genes matching certain names or associated phenotypes or functions, or sometimes features that are falling in a specific region. BioMart gives you a lot of flexibility. So you can apply one filter and build a simple query, or you can apply multiple filters to build a more complicated query. And BioMart follows NLogic, so they give you intersectional filters. So for example, if I'm interested in all genes on chromosome 9, and then I also want to apply this filter, which says that I'm also interested in genes that have a transmembrane domain. So in this case, I will only get all transmembrane domain genes on chromosome 9 as an output. I hope this makes sense. It will become clearer when we do the exercises as well. If you don't get results, this means that there is no overlap between your filters. And then the third step is that you have to specify your attributes. So this is what you want in your output. And we provide a wide selection of these, including IDs, features, genes, homologous genes, and sequences. And then finally, the last step is that you can view and export your data. So BioMart supports several of file formats, including HTML, comma-separated, XLS. However, you have to bear in mind with XLS export that Excel tables sometimes automatically change certain gene names to dates. So for example, if your gene is called OCT2, it might change it to October the 2nd. So just bear that in mind. And you can also export your sequence data in FASTA format. If you are an R user, there is also an R package available for BioMart, and you can find some information and some helpful links on the slide here. And you can also find some information on Ensembl BioMarts on our publication. Okay, so we are slowly going to move to the demo demonstration part of the module, but I also wanted to show you how we're going to do the demo on the slides first. So we're going to go through this step by step. So the questionnaire here is about looking at a set of 6 human genes, and we have the 6 human genes mentioned here, and we want to find out their NCBI gene IDs. We want to find out their functions via gene ontology, and also their cDNA sequence. So if I look at step 1 for this query, it would be that we would first need to specify that the data set that we're using is genes. The species that we're using is Homo sapiens, because we're interested in 6 human genes, and we have their names here. Then step 2 is filters. So these are things that you want to search with. So our filters would be gene names. And then our attributes, these are the things that we want in our output, would be our NCBI IDs. the gene ontology terms, and cDNA sequence. We will also include gene names here, just so that our output matches our input. And then the final step is to view and export our results. So you can find the demonstration on page number 69 if you want to do it on your own, on your computer, or you can also follow me along my screen as I go through the demo. So I'm just going to copy these genes here. And I'm going to go to the Ensembl homepage. As I mentioned in my slides, that you can find BioMart on the blue navigation bar at the top of the Ensembl homepage. Yes, you can convert a gene from one species to an ortholog. So over here, we will now need to specify our database first. So as I mentioned, because we're working here with human genes, so I'm first going to choose Ensembl genes. And then I need to choose my data set. So I'll now specify human genes. So once you have chosen your data set, the option of filters will become available on the left-hand side. So I'm going to click on filters now. And over here, you'll see that we have different categories of the filters. So if I expand region, you can filter the data set of human genes by chromosome number. So for example, if I want to filter my query by chromosome 9, so I will activate this filter first by clicking here on this box, and then I will specify chromosome 9. So now that I've specified my filter, it's also going to become available on the left-hand side under the filters section. But since we're not filtering our genes by chromosome number, so I'm just going to unselect this. And then you also have the option to limit your results by genomic location, karyotype band. You can also limit your results by external references, IDs, by microarray probes, gene type, transcript type, and you have a bunch of transcript annotations here, and then you can also filter by phenotypes, gene ontology terms, and so on. So we're going to filter, we're going to limit our results by input external reference ID list, since we're working with gene names. So I'm going to first activate this filter. And over here, from this drop-down menu, it's by default set to gene stable ID, but that's not what we're working with. We're working with gene names. So I'm going to specify gene names first. So this is over here. And now I'm going to paste in my gene names. And I'm going to get rid of this and separate it by comma. And then you can also, if you want, choose a file from your computer as your input data. And your in this text box, your items could be comma separated, or they could also be in a list. So now we've specified our filters, and this also becomes available, as I mentioned before, on the left-hand side under the filters section. So just to make sure that our filter has indeed applied, I'm also going to click on this count function. And this will now tells me that 6 out of 67,000 human genes match the filter that we've chosen, which is true because we are filtering with 6 gene names. Now we're going to move on to the attributes. And attributes are the things that you want in your output. So these are also categorized in 6 different categories. And these are indicated by these radio buttons. So we have features, structures, homologs, germline and somatic variant, and sequences. With attributes, you can only choose one attribute at a time. So I will stick with features for now. And I'm going to expand this gene section. So the demonstration exercise has asked us to get NCBI IDs and gene ontology terms. So I'm going to also get gene stable ID, which is selected by default. I'm going to unselect the gene stable ID version because we don't need this. I'm going to stay with the transcript stable ID, and I'm going to deselect the transcript stable ID version. As I mentioned, that it is always best practice to also get your output to match your input. So our input was gene names, and I'm also going to select gene names in my output as well. And now I'm going to move on to the external. And in this external section here, I'm going to select all of these gene ontology terms, so accession, name, and definition. And then we also want the NCBI gene IDs, which is here. So I've selected all of this. So the exercise also asked us to get sequences. But as I mentioned, you can only choose one attribute category at a time. So we're going to leave sequences for later on. And it's super simple to come back to it, and I'll show you how. But for now, I'm going to leave it on features, and we've selected gene name, we've selected gene stable ID, transcript stable ID, and gene ontology terms, and NCBI gene ID. Once I'm happy with my attributes, which are also listed here on the left-hand side under the attributes section, I'm going to click on results. By default, Ensembl BioMart will show you the first 10 results. But if you want to view all of your results, you can just simply go to this view section here. And right now it's set to 10, but if you click all, it will open a new window. This is just taking a bit of time. And over here now we have all of our results. So this table is quite massive. And this is because a gene could have several transcripts, and these transcripts have their own gene ontology terms. So gene ontology terms are associated with transcripts rather than genes. And then we have the gene stable ID that we selected for, we have the transcript stable ID, we have the gene name, gene ontology term accession, gene ontology term name and their definition. And over here, we also have the NCBI IDs. So let's go back to the original table. What you can do here is you can export your results in a file format, a compressed file format, and also a compressed web file. And if you choose this and give your email address here, you can also email these results to yourself. And you can export these results in HTML, CSV, TSV, and XLS format. Okay, the second part of the exercise was to also get sequences for the 6 gene names. So let's go back to attributes now. And we don't have to create a whole new query for it. All we have to do is, I went back to the attributes, and now instead of features, I'm going to select sequences. And for sequences, we want not the peptide, which is selected by default. We actually want the cDNA sequence. And you'll notice once I change from peptide to cDNA sequence, this graphical representation of it is also going to change to represent our sequence. And now we're also going to add some header information. So for the header information, let's say that we want our gene stable ID. We also want the gene name. And I think that's it. Should be good with that. So we have our gene stable ID and we have the gene name. And now I'm going to click on results. And as before, we'll have the first 10 results. But if you want to view all of them, we will simply go to this view section here, select all, which will open a new window. I'll just leave this to load. And as I mentioned, because for the headers, we chose for Ensembl stable ID, Ensembl gene stable ID, Ensembl transcript stable ID, and also the gene name. And we also have all of our results here now. And just as before, you also have the option to email the results to yourself, or you can just export them as a file in the FASTA format. And this is it about BioMart. And now let's go to the exercises, which are on page number 72. And if you have any questions, please ask either in the Zoom chat, or you're more than welcome to ask in the Google, the shared Google document. Hi. No, you can't search using sequences in BioMart. And the second question is about retrieving sequence for multiple IDs. You want the faster format sequence for protein in a pathway. Um, yes, so that is possible. Just as I showed you, so where is BioMart? So you can get these peptide sequences for multiple IDs in the faster format. So just as I showed you in the demo exercise, you will first need to specify your data set. So you will need to specify the data set that you're working with. And then in your filters, you can, if you go to the external references ID, so this depends on what type of IDs you have. And then in your attributes, as I showed you in the demonstration, you will need to select sequence and then peptide for your proteins sequence. So there's a question on the Living Doc about exercise BM1. So I thought we'll just do it on screen as well. So the exercise has asked us to find mouse proteins with signal P cleavage site located on chromosome 9. So for this, could you please make sure to mute yourself? And if you have any questions, definitely do unmute yourself and ask us. But stay on mute just to avoid background noise. So for this exercise, we're going to first select Ensembl genes. And then the exercise is on mouse genes. So we're going to select mouse genes. And now our filters have become available. So on the filters, the question is mouse proteins with signal cleavage sites located on chromosome 9. So we're going to filter then by region. And we're going to activate the chromosome filter. So I'm going to select this. And I am going to select chromosome 9. And now I'm going to scroll down, and from protein domains and families, I'm going to limit these genes with cleavage site signal P. And find mouse proteins with signal P cleavage site located on chromosome 9. And that's it. It hasn't really mentioned so on the attributes, we already have gene stable ID and transcript stable ID selected. We will also select gene name. And now I'm going to click on results. So now our output displays the Ensembl gene ID, the transcript ID, and the gene names of all proteins with the signal P cleavage site on mouse chromosome 9. How is everyone doing with the exercises? Could you please let me know if you need more time for the exercises or if you're ready to move on? If you're ready to move on, please let me know by raising your hand or maybe typing in the Zoom chat. So we have about 9 people who raised their hands out of 47. So I think I'm going to give a little bit more time for the exercises, and then we're going to move on to the wrap up. And I'll be here until 4 o'clock UK time. So we've still got loads of time after the wrap up. If you want any questions answered or if you're stuck with any of the exercises. So somebody has asked a demonstration for question number, exercise number BM4. So let's try and do that. So I'm going to just open a new job. And exercise BM4 is about structural variants. So we're going to choose symbol variation. And then it is on human structural variants. So I'm going to choose this. And then move on to our filters. So part A has asked us, export the study accession, source name, chromosome, sequence region start and end on chromosome 1, starting at 13048 and ending at 210597. Okay, so we're going to expand the region and we're going to select chromosome 1. And then we're also going to limit by coordinates. So this is 130408 and 210597. And now let's see the count. So it is 87 out of loads of entries. Now we're going to move on to attributes. And for the attributes, we want the study accession, source name, chromosome. So we're on structural variant information. Study accession is already selected. Variant name and variant alleles. Source name. And I'm just trying to find. Here it is, phenotype source and phenotype and the variant allele. So I think this is all the attributes that we need for our exercise. And now let's click on results. Sorry, this is taking a bit of time to load. I'm sure that Emily and Michal have both mentioned this to you before, but I will show it to you again that in case Ensembl site is being really slow, you can go to help in docs and then use one of our mirror sites. So I'll just show you where it is. So it's help in documentations. And then on the left-hand side, we have under the about the Ensembl project, we have our mirror sites option. And then from here, you can choose to go on US West, US East, or Asia. That might be a little bit faster because it all depends on traffic on the website. And our results have also loaded. So you can find out more information about a variant by its clicking on the variant name. So if I just click on this, this will lead me to the Ensembl page, the structural variant tab, and this gives you more information about this variant. And you can also find the phenotypes data from here. This is not mentioned for this variant, but it is here for the variants that this phenotype data will be available for. Yes, absolutely. The living doc will be active after the session and for quite a bit of time. So I'm going to start with the closing remarks. But as I mentioned, we will be here until for 30 more minutes. So we would really appreciate your feedback. So this will help us to improve our courses and our training. And you can also get the certificate after you filled in the survey. So I've posted the link to our survey on the Zoom chat, and I'll give 5 minutes now to complete the survey, and then we'll come back and I will wrap up. I hope that everyone was able to do the survey. So just a little bit of a summary of everything that we covered. Ensembl is a genome browser that integrates 4 different data types. And we have gene annotation, variation, and comparative genomes. And we also have regulation data as well. And Ensembl data, you can access this by using our website, which includes the main website, but we also have Ensembl GRCH37, which is the previous human genome assembly, a site dedicated to that. And then we also have the Ensembl sister site, Ensembl Genomes, which is dedicated to non-vertebrates, and our archives are also available for the previous Ensembl versions. You can mine the data in groups, as we showed you today, using BioMart, but you can also programmatically access our data using our APIs and MySQL. And finally, you can also download our whole genome files using our FTP site. And if you've enjoyed our training, please recommend us to your friends and your colleagues. Apart from the browser course, we also run Ensembl REST API course. And in that course, we teach you how to access the Ensembl data programmatically via the REST API, which is language agnostic. And finally, and also the most important message from today is that you can find help on Ensembl. So we have loads of help and documentation available, which is on the Ensembl pages and also the EBI pages. We also have short tutorials, animations on various different platforms, including the EBI training page and YouTube and Youku if you don't have access for YouTube. And if you have any questions regarding Ensembl or any issues with the exercises or with the website or any recommendations, please drop us an email at helpdesk@ensembl.org. You can also join our public mailing list to stay in touch and stay updated. And you can also follow us on our social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and we also have the Ensembl blog to stay informed. And you can also refer to our publications for more in-depth knowledge about the Ensembl data. And Ensembl team is made up of, so we're quite a large team, and this is definitely not just me, Mihal, and Emily. It is a joint effort. So Ensembl project wouldn't have been possible without all of the people working behind it, all of our developers and annotators, and also the funding bodies. And with this, I would like to thank you for your attention and all of your nice questions. But we'll stay here for 15 more minutes. So if you have any questions, please use the Living Doc, and also you can use the Zoom chat.
So Elena, we are uh, running over time. It's 8:30 now. Any further remark from you?
No further remarks from us. I just wanted to say that someone messaged me about not getting the certificate. So if it takes a bit of time, sometimes it does take a bit of time to get to you. But in case you don't get it until tomorrow, then please do get in touch.
So there is one more query, Elena.
Yes.
One participant raised a query how they can verify this certificate. So any email or something else? I mean, they are more concerned about certificate.
Um, I think I will let Emily take this one.
The certificates are the certificates. We don't have any further, excuse me, we don't have any further verification on them. I hope you've received the level of learning that you wanted to, which was the aim of this course, not just to gain a certificate.
Yeah. So So thanks, Emily. At the end of this workshop, I would like to say many thanks for your all kindness and efforts to participate in this workshop. Also, we would like to thank Ensemble Outreach Program team for delivering this amazing workshop. We are highly thankful to Emily and Mihal for delivering on our platform. Thanks and hope you all enjoyed learning. So, with these words, now I am ending today's session. Thanks all. Thanks, Alina. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you very much for having us.